my turn.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question. So as a parent.
All right. For the next topic, here's what I kind of wanted to discuss.
All right. My next thing is sort of it's a question to you.
Okay.
That I'm going to let you answer it first.
Okay.
So it's a 2-part question.
All right.
All right. So what's the hardest? Hi, welcome to Love, Growth, and Narratives. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Frederick.
And today we're going to do something a little bit different where we each have several topics that we're going to share and we don't know what the other one is going to say. And we're going to give each other a little bit of time to go back and forth about those topics.
Actually 5 minutes. And I've got it on my phone. And so what we'll do is we'll set a timer so that we don't go over, because I know, at least for me, once I get started, I can go much longer than 5 minutes. So
I'm a little nervous, but this should be fun.
This will keep me disciplined, but neither one of us knows what the other one is going to say, and so it should be a nice spontaneous conversation.
Yes. So, are we ready to get into it, as they say?
I think we are.
Okay.
All right, we're back, and I've got a few topics that I printed up, just stuff that I've been thinking about over the past couple of days. And, some of them may be questions. Some of them may be just topics to talk about. One of them I wanted to talk about was things we never thought we'd argue about. And go.
Okay, well, you start because that's yours. Give me some time to think.
Yeah, so one of them I was thinking about was temperature comfort.
Oh, yeah.
Because, interestingly for you like being cold during the day, but then you want to be warm at night.
I want to be cozy.
And I'm the opposite. I like being a little, not warm, but, not cold during the day. But at night, I like being ice cold. I like to sleep at about 67 degrees.
Now, when we did that, when you were living in Hollywood, I would wake up in pain because all night I was stiffening up so cold.
Wow.
So I don't like to be cold. I like to be cozy. So not necessarily warm.
Yeah.
But a little on the slightly cooler side in the room and then bundled up. But our idea of cold in the first place is extremely different, I noticed.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely different. And so because for me, it's actually better for you to sleep when it's a little bit colder.
Yes, so
because the body has to relax. Yes. Yes, which is why they talk about, why you should eat, 3 hours before you go to bed. It's not really a diet thing. It has to do with, your body finishing digesting by the time you go to sleep, because as you're digesting, it warms the body temperature.
Yes.
And
okay.
So scientifically.
However, each body is different, and therefore you have to go by your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So if I'm waking up in pain because I was holding everything in all night, then I know it was a little too chilly. But luckily, we don't have AC yet, so we.
Yeah.
But we had the fans blowing, and so that's.
Oh man! And the other day when I went to charge your car, you like to keep your AC on low, like the LO, and so it's not even in the 60s. You was like it on LO.
I don't know why that happened.
Yeah. You do. In fact, you do that in the car, in my car. You set your side to low. Not even in the 60s, but low.
So all of a sudden in the car, you like it warmer.
No, I mean, I like 71, 72 is comfortable for me.
Yeah.
But you like it low. But on my side, I normally have it like 71, 72. But then you get in, it's not enough for you. And then you have to change your side but not understanding that there's not a force field. Even though they have like 2 climate zones, if you make it like one temperature that's extreme to mine, I will actually feel it.
Well,
It does
I think I
affect
get
me.
a hot flash when I get in your car. I mean, because another thing that we probably thought we wouldn't argue about is driving, right? Because to me, you drive like a madman, and I'm nervous, and so the heat rises, and I need to cool down.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with all of those things.
Of course you do.
But it's interesting that you like it so cold in the car. You like it so cold during the day, but then at night let's turn the temperature up.
Well, I'm not fully
And I'm the
dressed.
opposite. I'm the opposite. I like it, low 70s during the day, but then upper 60s at night.
Oh, yeah.
And, just because you refuse to admit that you got the best sleep of your life when I lived in Hollywood, and I used to have the AC on all the time. It's just unfortunate. You just can't find a way to admit that. I don't know what to say.
It's kind of hard when it's not true.
Well, but it is true, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the bigger problem.
No.
All right. Well, we didn't go 5 minutes on that one, because she just refuses to admit, the obvious reality that I'm right. So, we'll just have to move on to the next one, and I will set the timer once she announces the next one. What is the next one that we're going to talk about?
The next one we're going to talk about is spicy food. Okay. So I don't think everything needs to be spicy. I know when we first got together and you did the majority of the cooking, which you still do, you would always put these serrano peppers in every single thing you made.
Yes.
And for me, that makes all the food taste the same.
But so here's the thing. There's a bit of that, but with the serrano pepper, it's not just that it's spicy. The heat is not the only thing about it. It's just the serrano pepper has a great flavor to it. So even if there were a way for you to extract the heat, I would still love the serrano pepper.
I'm just not feeling it.
It's just a really good pepper to cook with, as long as you don't cook with too many. Because there was one time, I think it was Father's Day, Joseph decided to cook for us, and he made like chicken fried rice, and he put like 2 big ones in there. And I mean, that was tough. You talk about like bubbles on my head.
Yeah, you sweat like crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
But you still somehow enjoy that. Where for me, it's not that I don't like. I like Frank's Red Hot sauce on, like, put a lot on some chicken, or I like some hot wings.
Some wannabe hot sauce,
but whatever. Okay. But it's meant; those things are meant to be hot. I don't need hot spaghetti and hot macaroni and cheese and hot chicken fried rice.
Hot macaroni and cheese is pretty awesome, though.
No. No. We need to taste the flavors in the food and not be overpowered by the fact that it's hot and everything else is secondary. So yeah.
I don't know, that kind of takes me back to my Army days, because I didn't like going to the mess hall and everything, and so I would get that Kraft macaroni and cheese, with the little packets and stuff.
Yeah.
And with that, and I would pour hot sauce on there, like real hot sauce. And that's just really good, and especially if it's like baked macaroni and cheese with a little bit of kick to it. That's some good stuff.
We don't need to do that. We don't need to harm the food in that way. Just chill, enjoy the different flavors and cultures and everything else. We don't need to spice it all up.
Now because of you, I'm more sensitive to hot food than I used to be, and so now I can't even enjoy it. So now you've just ruined my enjoyment just to please you.
Job well done. No. But once in a while, I know you guys both like hot food, and so I'll take one for the team every now and then. But it's not easy. I got to tell you that.
Yeah, but it's good for you because it also speeds up the metabolism.
And it also is bad for you if you have like acid reflux or any of those other things, ulcers and stuff.
But it also speeds up the metabolism.
Yeah, but you don't want your metabolism sped up while you're dead. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You got trade-offs with everything. It's just, nothing's perfect. But no, I don't like heat just to be hot. Like there are some hot sauces that are hot, but I don't like the flavor. And so, it's extremely hot, but if I don't like the flavor, I'm still not going to eat it.
Yeah.
I like hot sauces that are good. The one I grew up on was, of course, Tabasco. I still love Tabasco. I could put Tabasco.
I grew up on Frank's Red Hot, and that's what I like.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. I just, I've never really been a huge fan of it.
Yeah, well.
That's for people who eat a lot of chicken wings and stuff like that, and, and suck the bone like you do, and, and all that kind of stuff. So
why you put my business out there? we did have another podcast about bone cleaning, so that's okay.
Yes, because that's not something that I'm really interested in.
All right.
So because of the way that the topics have been, and we didn't need the 5 minutes. So now I'm going to set it to 4 minutes and see if we can stay within that. And, with this next topic, I think, I don't know if we'll need that much time, but it's kind of a pet peeve of mine.
That's one of my questions.
And it happens mostly at pizza restaurants of all places. Or a lot of places like places where, barbecue places where your fingers get really messed up, is that those disappearing napkins. I absolutely detest those tiny disappearing napkins. And I end up complaining. It's like, guys, charge me a couple extra dollars and bring me some real, you know what I'm talking about? Those little.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking
those
about.
Little, man.
They're folded.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
And it's like the second you wipe anything with, they just disappear.
Yeah, you need another one,
you need like 100 of them. Right. And it's like, why would somebody even do that?
Yeah, that's strange.
What's the purpose?
Right. For me, I'm very careful when I eat, and I've been like this all my life, where I will only eat with these. Only these 4 fingers can touch my food at any given time. So I never have my hands all messy. But at the same time, that is annoying when those napkins just,
And along with that are the cheap plasticware. Give me some plasticware that I can actually use.
Right.
Those ones where the forks just break as soon as you put it into the food. Look, guys. Charge me a couple extra dollars and give us some real forks, some real plasticware, some good plasticware, which is not expensive at all.
Agreed.
But they just give you like the weakest stuff. And it's like, I can't even pick up my food with this stuff.
It's pretty wasteful.
Yeah. So I had to get that little pet peeve out of the way.
Okay.
Luckily, it didn't take up too much time. But it's just a little source of irritation for me. Okay.
All right, so this next topic is the taking of the last name. I know that you and I have talked about this before. So I always said to myself that I wasn't going to change my last name. And the reason initially was that I have my mother's maiden last name, right? So I don't even have my father's last name. And I felt like I was the last of the Moores. I mean, I know there's tons of cousins, but I don't know them. And so when my grandparents both passed and both of my uncles passed, and I hadn't found my cousin Justin just yet, I was like, I'm going to keep Moore, Plus, I like the flow of my first name and my 2 middle names and my last name, which they all have double letters. And I was like, I'm just not changing my name. I love it. The most that I would do is put my name and whoever I was going to marry, their last name together and create a new name. I thought that was, plus my whole little, feminist ways, which I know some people don't like. But so I had that whole thing in my mind. And then, when you actually get married, you rethink it, even though I still felt all the way up till like, I want to keep my name, right? And I like the last name Cook, and it has double O's as well. But I just felt like, wow, like I made it all the way to this grand old age, let me just keep it. And yes, my cousin, I found him, whatever. And, his last name is Moore. But I still just felt like, we tossed around putting our names together.
Yes.
But it'd probably be a bigger deal in society for you to change your name. Plus,
not really.
No, really? The kids having your last name and everything.
I've actually, I actually have some friends who've changed their last name to their wife's last name. I've got a couple of friends who've done that.
Yeah.
And like one of the guys that I used to hang out with back when I lived on the East Coast, what happened was his wife was like an only child, kind of like you. And their family was worried about, and they didn't have like any relatives, anywhere in the area. And they were worried about that last name going away. And so he took it.
Nice.
And,
Right.
And so, when he changed his name, I mean, it was just, well, here's why I changed it. And everybody's like, oh, okay. And some people were like, that's really cool that you did that. That's really a nice thing that you did that.
Right.
So, yeah. But for me, I know for a lot of men, that's a big deal. It's just not for me. Whether you take my name or keep your name, it's just not a big deal for me. And, the other thing was my father, my father told me many years ago that one of his great regrets was in making it a showstopper when my parents got married that my mother take his last name. And, you know, when he looked at it years later, he was like, why did I do that? It's not even important. Who cares?
Right.
And so he kind of put that into me. And so, and for just a whole bunch of other reasons, I just don't care. You know, I mean, and this is not to say there's something wrong with people who do care about it, but just for me, I don't care one way or the other.
Right. Yeah. That worked out nicely.
Me. Yeah. Doesn't bother me. Yeah. You know, we had talked about cook more and more cook and you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, but you know.
That's why our nickname is Moco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. and so it's one of those things that, you know, I know that you're my wife and you know that you're my wife. And so.
Right.
What else matters?
Right. I do like Mrs. I just like it for, I like it for the, I don't know why. I mean, people might say, well, if you're so liberal, but I do like it. I don't insist on it, you know?
Oh.
All right. That top's over.
Yeah.
All right. On to the next one. On to the next one.
Okay. All right. For the next topic, here's what I kind of wanted to discuss.
Okay.
Because both of us presently own EVs.
Yeah. And
I hear people saying, you know, both of you guys have EVs. Do you? And it's a kind of a weird question. A few people have asked me, do you miss pumping gas? It's like, what about pumping gas would I miss? But yeah, it's just, I don't get why that's a question. Yeah, I miss going to the station and sticking that nozzle in and getting gas fumes all over my clothes. Yes, that's yeah, it's a little nostalgia there, you know. But you know, but the other piece to that is there's trade-offs, as you've seen, to having an EV.
Right.
And, you know, because of where we live and because we can't at this moment put a charging station at home, we have to go out to charge.
Yes.
Now, luckily in our area, there's a decent amount of fast chargers, but still you have to leave out the house and you got to go do it. And, you know, sometimes they're full and all that kind of stuff.
It's definitely something to get used to. You've had a newer car for a while, so you were used to, even with the other car with the whistles and bells and everything. Yeah. But me, I had a 2008 Honda Accord with no plans to get rid of it until even my mechanic was like, it's done. Let her go. Let navigation go. So I kind of felt a little roped into getting this car, but I'm excited about it now.
You were roped into getting a car.
Yeah, I was.
Not that one in particular,
I did not want a
but
car
you
payment.
were roped into getting a car because your car was not only burning oil, but it was leaking oil.
Yeah.
And so you can play around all you want to. You can't mess with oil.
Yeah.
Can't do it with oil.
I know it was time. I did not want a car payment, but here I am. So I like it. I know some people are like, oh, I couldn't be sitting there for an hour or even 20 minutes charging my car. It's not a big deal, really. Like I'm just, you know, a lot of times you can plug it in and then go grocery shopping or whatever. Or I don't mind just sitting there like once a week. Like I'm not sitting there that long.
Right.
I don't go to the super fast chargers because like I just don't want to go to Tesla. But I know that it's possible, but I don't want to give any money there.
Well, I charged your car yesterday at the Tesla lot. Sorry.
Me.
Sorry.
But I do enjoy having it. I think it did get scary for me for a minute to get really low on the battery. I think one time I don't know how much, maybe like 50 miles left, which some people are like, what's the big deal? But for me, that was a little scary. I've never run out of gas, and I don't want to see what it's like to run out of electricity either. Because it's not as easy, I feel like, to find a place as it is to find a gas station.
It isn't. And even though in California, you know, they came out the other day and said, you know, there's actually more charging stations than gas pumps in California, which may be true, but a lot of them are the level 1 charge, the really slow charges. So it's kind of like that's not that exciting.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I get from a lot of people when they say, you know, both of you guys have chargers, you know, what would you do if the electricity went out and you couldn't charge? And it's like, yeah, but gas pumps need electricity too. So, and I learned that during one of the hurricanes that came through Maryland, and we couldn't get gas. So gas pumps need electricity too. But yeah, it's definitely a trade-off, but I prefer it. I love it. And I love the way an EV drives. I like the torque on demand.
Yep. Oh, all time's up. All right. So my turn. Let me ask you this question. So as a parent and a husband and son of teachers, what is one thing you wish all teachers would do?
That's kind of a tough one.
Well, you could say more than one.
Okay. What I wish teachers would do, and these are things that actually I wish more teachers would do it, because there are teachers that do these things. I wish teachers would teach to the student instead of just teaching to the curriculum. And that doesn't mean you totally throw the curriculum out the door, but also make sure that the student actually understands it, before moving on. And, if you've taught a subject, especially something like math, if you've taught a subject and 2/3 of the class don't understand it, you really should not move on. You really should try to figure out how to swing back through it and get everyone on board, or try a different way. And that's one of the other things, so many teachers are kind of stuck in their own, and you know this better than I do, because I'm sure you've been around teachers who are like, I've been teaching for 30 years. This is how I do it. The kids get it or they don't.
So I agree with you that, we have to look at the child, and that we do need to go back. And I think most teachers do go back. They try to. There's some that, kind of stick to, I got to go to the next page and I'll wait till the curriculum circles back. But then there's some curriculums that don't circle back. So there's other ways that teachers try to do intervention, especially if it's reading. I can't speak for every district or school, but in our district, they do get some extra support pulled out. Those who are the most needy get it. And then teachers also have the option to do a tutoring session, some intervention session in the morning or after school, but not everyone can do that because of their own personal, situations. But I think most teachers do try their best to make sure that the majority of the students are understanding the material. However, there's so many other things that we're up against that don't have anything to do with us. From attendance to the child even putting the effort to parental support to if you have time or not. Like, there's all these other things that we have to do during the day. And I know why we're there. I mean, if teachers had their way, education would look a lot different, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'm sure.
But, there are things that we do because we have to do it.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to pass on the students. A lot of times it's not even up to us. So that's something I'd want to clear up, because I think people tend to think, these teachers are just passing the students on. Like, we, for the most part, do not even have a say in that.
Yeah. So,
but I do agree that there used to be, like, I remember my very first principal was like, make sure like 80% of the kids understand it, know? And at one time that was an easier goal to reach, but it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
It really is.
All right. For the next subject, and this is, probably not something that needs a whole lot of discussion, but I, being kind of a curious nerd, I was, reading about this, living in California, living in Los Angeles, you have all of these palm trees. Majority of these palm trees were planted prior to the 1932 Olympics, when they went around and just they planted tens of thousands of palm trees all over Los Angeles. I bring that up because the palm trees here normally have a lifespan of, if I remember correctly, it's like between 60 and 100 years. And some of them can get as much as 150 years. But for the ones in California, according to, I guess, people who are experts, that, they only have a few years left of life. And so with that, now there's a controversy. It's like they want to know, should we plant new palm trees? Or go with a different kind of tree, and there's different contingents about that. What do you think?
I mean, we're known for that, even though I know they don't, originally grow here and that they were planted. But I think that we should replace them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I do love the look of a palm tree, but it's kind of a useless tree.
True. Doesn't give you much shade.
Gives you no shade. Gives you no shade.
And when they get dry and they fall, I'm thinking about the area I grew up in, Hancock Park. When they get dry and they fall, they're just all over the street.
Yes.
And
they're some of them are really heavy. You can't just run over them and stuff like that.
Right.
And yeah, so it's like, and I would imagine that in the coming years, it's gonna affect traffic because at some point they're gonna have to start tearing down these trees. And you look at, some of them are 100 feet high. I mean, how are they gonna be able to do that? And and in LA, we don't need help to get slow traffic.
No, we don't. But we're kind of used to it. There's always some construction going on.
Always construction.
At the worst time.
Yes. Well, I realize that sometimes we need it because, sometimes the potholes get smoothed over. So we need new potholes.
Right.
So we got to make sure that going through LA streets, you feel like you're on the Baja,
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because that was just something I was thinking about in terms of what are they going to do? They're also thinking about it because we're about to get another Olympics here in 28. Yeah. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to work through all of that.
Oh, wow. We're going to spend a pretty penny, I'm sure.
Yes.
And suddenly some of the things that we've been complaining about will magically go away for a period of time.
Yeah. All right. So it's your turn for the next subject.
All righty. The MMA sports.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
I'm
sorry. Barbaric.
It's not.
It is.
It really is not.
It really is.
It really is not.
Watching people tear each other's ears off.
They're not. No one's tearing each other's ears.
Blood splattered
That's some Mike
everywhere.
Tyson stuff with biting the ear off. That's
But no, these people punch the ears off. That's worse. Just take a bite out of me, please. I'm like, I cannot believe that this is called a sport. Like, it's ridiculous to sit there and watch people bloody each other up for enjoyment.
First off, there's an extreme amount of talent involved, and it's not just like two guys get into or two ladies get into an octagon or a cage and then just beat each other to death. It
looks
really
that way.
It really isn't. It really isn't. When you see the more talented MMA fighters, I mean, the level of skill that they have to deal out damage and not take damage, especially when they get on the ground, the jiu-jitsu game, where you can have someone who's smaller and weaker still submit someone who's stronger and seemingly more capable because of angles, because of leverage, because of all of this. It is a whole lot more intellectual than you could really do. And what I would say is, for those who feel that way, if you've ever taken classes in, say, Muay Thai, in high school, I took Wing Chun from one of my sister's old boyfriends back in high school. Because, as I said in previous podcast, I used to get in a lot of fights as a kid. And as he started teaching me Wing Chun, it actually got me to fight less because you realize how little you know about fighting. I mean, I always knew that I wasn't very knowledgeable about fighting because my record wasn't the greatest. But the more I learned about how to fight, the less it made me want to fight. And I've seen that with a lot of other people as well. And so, but when you do the actual intellect around it, from the kicks to the punches to the takedowns, the submissions, there is, I mean, if you look at a lot of these MMA fighters, a lot of these folks are highly intelligent people.
I'm sure they are.
Highly
I respect
intelligent.
an athlete. I just feel like we have enough. I mean, you probably don't see it as violence, and I do, But I feel like we have enough of that already, but
Yeah.
more than enough violence. And I understand like taking a class of self-defense or learning discipline and learning about your body.
Yeah.
But bloodying someone, I just, no.
But the other interesting part, which I love that I know you think is pretty stupid, is after the fight.
Oh yeah, they're all like,
and then they'll
holding hands.
Yeah, and going out for a drink and hanging out and becoming friends and all this kind of stuff.
Odd.
Because it's not about hating the other person. It's about the competition.
Yeah.
It's simply about the competition. And I wish sometimes I wish I had it in me to do it. I don't have it in me to do it. But sometimes I do wish that I did.
I'm glad that you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there we go. Now for mine, and I was trying not to be controversial with mine because, a lot of the things that I talk about end up being controversial anyway. And I was just trying to go a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
But this one may seem a little bit more on I wouldn't call it touchy.
Okay.
But one of them was, is it a cancelable offense in today's day and age to just say, I don't know?
I don't think so.
Because what it seems like is everything that happens in the news, everything that happens on social media, you are required to have an opinion on. And it must be a strong opinion. And I know like even, I get around some of my friends, either at the gym or out doing other things. And it's like, oh, this stuff is happening and everybody, and what do you think? And it's like, I don't know. I haven't researched it. I'm not smart enough on this subject to have an opinion one way or the other, besides the fact that that subject may not, have any bearing on my life. And so not only do I not know, I may not even care. Do I have to care about everything?
Yeah, no, you don't. I mean, I guess that's something to say, because I don't know, sounds like it depends on what it is. If something important thing that's impacting society and impacts you, to be like, I don't know. I mean, it's okay to say I don't know, but it depends how you say it. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't care. I don't want to know. Versus, I'm not really sure about that. I need to look into it. It's a different thing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, because a lot of times it's like the event just happened. And then everyone is running around with their opinions. And for me, because so often the information that initially comes out ends up being contradicted by evidence later on. And so to always feel like you have to be the first one with the hot take, I don't feel that need. And so for me, things happen. Some of my friends at the gym know that I used to be in government in the Department of Defense. And so anything happens having to do with any kind of conflict, they'll be asking me and I'll say, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if it's important, I may research it and, maybe I can, get you some information, but it just happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would prefer in most situations to just wait until more evidence surfaces, because normally when you get something, the moment it happens, you don't know what's going on.
Right.
Just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Don't go crazy just yet. And besides the fact that most people can't seem to read past the headlines. It's like, at least read the first paragraph of the article.
Right.
They can't read past the headlines. And then all of a sudden they're forming opinions and they're going on social media and they're ranting and, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, is it okay to just not know? And in some circumstances, if it really has no bearing on your life, is it okay to say, yeah, I don't care?
Yeah.
I really don't.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't care about everything. I just can't. It's like my poor feeble mind can only take on but so much.
Yeah.
So, if it's not important to me and but everybody is worried about, I don't know, what the Kardashians are doing or whatever. And it's just like, I'm sorry, I just really don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Right.
I don't mean to do them harm or anything, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I just really do not care.
Okay. We get it.
Oh boy.
That's funny. Okay. Good one. All right. My next thing is sort of it's a question to you.
Okay.
That I'm going to let you answer it first.
Okay.
So it's a 2-part question.
All right.
All right. So what's the hardest thing about being married and what's the best thing about being married?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but I can't think of anything. You know, and a lot of it is honestly the kind of person you are. And this is not a value judgment about if someone is good or bad. But for some people, you know, having a long-term relationship with one person is all they need. You know, I mean, there's some people I know who, for them, marriage is a sacrifice. Because it's like, well, I could be out doing other things and, you know, and hanging out with the fellas or, you know, in pursuit of other women, but I'm sacrificing for my wife. I don't feel that way. You know, so for me, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything.
Okay.
So, and I guess the best thing, and I would have to say it with this marriage, is having the ability to be myself.
I would say the hardest thing is when you just had a long day and you just don't feel like talking or doing anything and you just want to be a lazy lima bean, which is something I like to be way too often. You really can't. I mean, some people do that.
Yeah.
But I don't feel comfortable doing that, you know, because I don't want to neglect my marriage and my family and what we have established. So like just getting the energy to go ahead and talk or engage or do something, you know, spend time or whatever it is. I think what makes it easier is that if I just say, like, if I just take a certain amount of time, like 15 minutes to just sit in the car and whatever, you know. But the best thing about being married, there's a lot of best things about being married, is like, first of all, being married to the right person.
Right.
Like, because I think to myself often, like, I could not do this under some of the other circumstances that I've seen. I think just having a true partner in everything, like things that are going well, things that are not going well. Socially, you've changed my life. Emotionally, I've become more mature with you. Just open me up to different things, make me challenge myself. So someone who does that without telling you what to do and telling you or making you feel like they want you to be somebody different, but just giving you the space, again, like you said, to be you, you know?
Yeah.
So that's like, that's priceless. And I hope that more people who get married get to experience that true, like, comfort, like feeling like the person you're with is home and not because you're used to toxicity or, you know, or just because that is home, but because it actually feels like home.
Yes.
You know? And so that for me is the best thing. But with that said, I don't think people should, it's over. Can't hear the rest of that.
So I think we should have maybe one each left and then kind of wrap things up.
Okay.
And my final one is a pet peeve. Okay. And unfortunately, I am not short on pet peeves. I have probably too many. But the one I wanted to discuss is when I'm at the supermarket, and this just annoys me to no end. So, living in the city, because real estate is at a premium, the supermarkets, the aisles are not extremely wide. And I am so sick and tired of people brushing past me or reaching over me without having the courtesy to say, excuse me. You know, I was at Trader Joe's the other day, standing in line, and I guess where I was standing was where like the beef and turkey jerkies are and all that kind of stuff. And so this woman, I could see her next to me looking at it, and I could tell she wanted to get over there. And what I used to do was I would just move out of people's way, just trying to be courteous. But I was like, why am I always the one being courteous? And so I just stood there. And so what did she do? She tried to slip her way around me and ends up pushing me slightly. It wasn't like a big push, but slightly nudging me to get to some beef jerky when all she had to do was say, excuse me.
Right.
Why is that so difficult for people in this day and age to show some regular courtesy? And I know we did a whole episode on this, but that just irritates me to no end that people, you know, and it's not just at the supermarkets, but everywhere. People will walk past you. They'll bump into you, won't say anything. They'll walk in your way. They do all this kind of stuff and won't say anything. What is wrong with saying, excuse me?
Yeah. I don't know. It's like that extra little piece of time, or admitting that maybe people feel like admitting I'm wrong. I'm admitting something by having to say this. I don't know, but it is odd that people feel, to me, you're almost starting something, like someone's standing there and you're reaching right in front of their face.
Yep. And how many times have you been at the supermarket where like you're in an aisle and you're looking at a bunch of things, like be it like the cereal aisle or soups or whatever,
right,
and you're looking at all of them,
right,
and then someone comes and just reaches right in front of your eyes.
Yes, yes.
And it's like, seriously? You couldn't? And a couple of times I've actually said, I try not to, but a couple of times I've had enough. And it's like, you really are going to reach your arm in front of me, right, barely hitting my nose,
right,
and not say, excuse me. You're really going to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what I do, even if I'm walking down the aisle, you know, in the grocery store, and someone, even they're looking at something, but there's enough space for me to get through where they don't impede my space at all. I still say, excuse me, because I know that they're looking at something.
I do as well.
I'm like, oh, excuse me, I'm walking past, I'm walking through. It's just politeness. Like it's even automatic. I don't even have to think about it. And I just wonder how we got away from that automatic, excuse me, thank you, please. What happened? I don't know.
Yeah. And when I talk to other people about it, some people claim it's really more of a Los Angeles thing, but I don't know, you know, but I think that there is a problem with it everywhere. You know, just saying, excuse me.
Well, I'm going to add to that. I don't know. I can't say it's a Los Angeles thing, but I will say, I feel like in New York, like, I mean, even though I was born there, right, and grew up there, when I would go for vacation, especially in the city where it's super crowded, and I would bump into people. You can't help but to bump into people. And but because I'm so used to saying, excuse me, I'm like, excuse me, I'm sorry, excuse me. And the people are like, it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
Like, to them, it's part of being a New Yorker almost, right? And then when I went to Europe, Italy specifically, and we were riding on the train, there's not...
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay.
What is your last one?
All right. So it's interesting when you don't get to finish what you want to say, but at the same time, it's like that's something that you need to practice. You don't always get to finish everything that you're saying and get everything out. You know, sometimes it's time to move on.
Absolutely.
So to my final, it's a question for you and for myself, I guess, to answer. But what area do you think that I've grown the most since we've been together?
If I had to pick one, because you've grown in a lot of areas, but if I had to pick one, it's your ability to have good faith conversations. It's your ability to see nuance. Whereas when we first met, a lot of our arguments were just trying to, you were more binary in your thinking. Things are either all good or all bad. Yeah. And I live in the gray, you know? Yeah. And so, so now that you have started to really take on a more nuanced take on things. I think that was a large bit of growth.
Okay. Yeah. I think I agree. I like that.
What about you
good.
towards me, or what my growth was?
I would say the biggest area that I see of growth is between you and Joseph. I think just a lot more conversation, a lot more understanding, being a lot more thoughtful. I'm not going to say that you probably already had this where if something happens, you would go back and, talk about it. But for me, just seeing you, like if something happened that maybe I didn't agree with, or that maybe you would turn to me and say, what do you think about that? Or was I right? Or was I wrong?
Yeah.
The way that you go back, and you talk with him about it over again, I think is just really powerful and amazing to see, because I think it's really hard, at least for me, it's really hard to change if something that you've been doing for years and decades.
Yeah.
But one thing I don't see with you, for the most part, when you recognize something in yourself that you want to change, you work at it like immediately, and so that I think is awesome. But that particular area I think is really...
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that really took some work. And what I had to think about was how I was with my other kids. They're grown now, but when they were that age, and not wanting to repeat those mistakes. I was quick to anger. And it's not because I was necessarily angry, but it was because I didn't know how to get through. It was more frustration of not knowing how to have these calm conversations and stuff like that. And I'm still not great at it, but I feel like I'm better. And so now, and Joseph helps me a lot with that too. It's interesting how my son is helping me to raise him somehow.
I think all kids do that to parents.
But what he does is when we have an argument, he's the first one to come back to me before I can even come back to him and say, all right, that didn't go well, and so we end up having the conversation again. And when we do, it's a whole different conversation. Both of us, kind of calmer heads have prevailed, and we can actually have a great conversation. But more often than not, he's the one that initiates it.
Yeah.
He's the one that says, all right, Dad, I know you're angry, but we need to talk about this. And it's like, okay, let me check my feelings and let's talk about it. And we've had some great conversations, and also having you to help me out and teach me these things. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you bringing up this discussion. We wanted to kind of break things up and have a little bit of fun here. And hopefully, along with that, you can kind of see when you're having discussions with your friends, see if you had a timer on you.
Yes.
And see how well those discussions would go.
Right.
But I appreciate us having this time. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's been fun. I think it was needed. I love our show and all the different topics. But I was missing something, a little fun and light, and taking each other, kind of catching each other off guard. Something that we didn't talk about, extensively beforehand. So I think this was fun.
Yeah, and I think at some point we'll need to revisit this this format here. Yeah. But I really appreciate, and you brought this up, so I really appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, is there any parting thoughts?
No, just I guess just be willing to have a variety of conversations with different people, but especially your significant other, and keep it light, because I know some conversations can turn into an argument.
Yes.
But if you just say the most important thing of what you want to say and let the other person do the same thing, and then let it go.
Yeah, definitely let it go. I appreciate that. So for this episode of Love, Growth, and Narratives, I'm Frederick.
And I'm Tiffany.
thank you so much for your time. And we will see you next time.
Bye. Take care.